Welcome to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. I'm your host, Darrell Scott, and together we will dive into the lives and careers of the jazz legends who have left a rhythmic imprint on the world. Be prepared to reminisce on the highs and the lows of their musical journey and the trials that sculpted their timeless musical gems. We'll preserve the legacy of these extraordinary maestros and find inspiration in the melodies of their lives. Subscribe now and never miss a beat. Now, let's get to the show. Ladies and gentlemen, hi there. I'm Darrell Scott. This is the Jazz Flyte Podcast. That gentleman over there grinning is Mr. Paul Jackson Jr. I'm going to give you this fact, and I don't know if you know this. So while doing my history on you, I went to Wikipedia.
Yes.
Wikipedia lists every artist that you were a musician, that you played with, in alphabetical order. The only letters that you don't have a name by are Q, U, X, Y, and Z. I'm not going to say how many albums or songs or whatever it is, but when you think about it that way, from the standpoint, this man has recorded, you come up with somebody with the name A, Joan Baez, Quincy Jones, Michael Jackson, the list goes on and on. My first thing is this. Why aren't you doing TV?
Well, I've actually done a lot of TV. Now, in terms of front of the camera, that's something I aspire to get back into. I did it when I was a little kid.
Yeah.
Behind the camera, actually, funny story. I did 9 seasons of American Idol, and
Okay.
I was on camera a lot. And there was one particular show where we had to split the band, where Ricky Minor, great musical director I work with, had to do the band downtown, and I had to stay at the studio. And I was at the studio with Jack Black. And so Jack Black, during the show, starts talking to me. It's like, hey, band guy. I said, hey, over here, dude, And so the funny thing, the joke started being, if you want to be on camera, stand next to Paul, because that actually happened kind of frequently. So, in terms of getting back on television, I aspire to. And the good thing is that television in front of the camera is not age dependent the way music and other things are.
Right.
So, I'm just waiting for a role to come up where I'm somebody's great uncle who plays the guitar. and as soon as that happens, I'm your man.
Because and I'm not sure how many people know the story. You're in a role. You play a role in Good Times.
Yeah, when I was 15, I did a guest appearance on Good Times. Yes.
And you couldn't stay on the show. They didn't know who you were, or who you were going to become.
I was 15 years old. I played a thug who tried to beat up Michael, and that was it. And Michael was going to stay on the show, so that pretty much sealed my fate there. So,
all right. So when did this guitar thing come into the forefront?
Well, let's see. I was about 15 years old around that time, and I had been playing the guitar, and I said, I was going into electrical engineering, which is what my dad got his degree in at Case Western Reserve. Yay. So I said, well, I want to do the same thing. And something said, and in retrospect, it had to be the Holy Spirit, said, I want to be a musician. So I changed a lot of my math science classes to music classes. And I fixed it so I could get out of school early. And so I used to go to high school from 8 o'clock to 12 noon. And I'd go home and I'd practice my guitar all afternoon, do my homework and practice my guitar. And so that's really what happened. And then I lived down the street from Patrice Rushen. And my mother said, okay, I don't know much about music, but Patrice lives down the street. Why don't you go talk to her? So she gives me a Kenny Burrell record, and she tells me to start listening to Earl Klugh, and she took me under her wing. And several years later, I'm still working with her. She hired me to teach at USC. She works on my records. She hasn't recorded any new records, but she works on all my records, and we're still best friends. We talk every week, and so that's how that happened.
She will be here at the end of August, and we just
Okay.
had her on the show 2 weeks ago.
Now,
She's
another interest. Go ahead.
she. Sometimes you talk to somebody and you hear, I'll call it a different world.
Uh
I
huh.
learned a lot about Patrice from talking to her and how she answered and everything. And she has a quote on the show, and I cannot remember it now. But she's far more talented than I thought. Because now she says, "Oh, I'm doing symphonic music." I'm like, "Where? How do we get there?" But I understand that all of you all are you have so many different things that you have going on. So I just sit and wonder, and I sit in my office and I play music, and I have a remote control, and I can go forward, I can go backwards. It's just a great thing to listen to you all. So what's your
Well,
story?
yeah. Well, first of all, let me digress for 1 second. The reason I'm laughing is because I had a similar conversation with Patrice, but it wasn't, I didn't know you did that. It was, I want to acknowledge the fact that you do that and nobody else does. So
Right.
if you look at Patrice, she's had a successful jazz career, and I don't mean smooth jazz, I mean straight ahead jazz,
Yes. Yes.
and a successful R&B career, and a success scoring episodic television, and successfully scored movies, and she's a singer, and she's a keyboard player, and she's an arranger and a composer, and as you said, she writes for symphonies. Now name 5 people you know that do that. I'll wait.
You'll be waiting a long time.
I can only think of one other person whose might be close, and he didn't score for symphonies, and that was George Duke. I worked a lot with George.
Okay.
Uh, but singer, yeah, keyboard player, yeah, wrote for television, yeah, wrote for movies, yeah, scored for symphonies, no. Although he did do a suite called the Muirwood Suite, I just don't know
Yeah.
if it was ever performed.
Right.
But yeah, so yeah, so yeah, so yeah, so my story, practiced my guitar, joined Patrice's band when I graduated from high school. Backstory: my mother called her on the phone and said, "Patrice, I want you to take care of my son. Make sure he doesn't get in any trouble." And so I've been bugging her for years. So, her hiring me to teach at USC was the continuation of her promise to my mother that I'll look out for your son. So
Great.
she hired me to teach there. Yeah. I taught under her at USC. So joined Patrice's band. She introduced me to people like Lee Ritenour and Al McKay. And at the same time, I found the Lord and I started going to a church called Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church, one of whose members was a guy by the name of Ollie Brown, who produced Breakin' and worked with Stevie Wonder and the Rolling Stones and on and on and on. But he was also best friends with Ray Parker Jr.
Mm.
So he introduces me to Ray Parker Jr. And Ray started sending me on sessions. And so I had Patrice sending me on sessions and getting me started. I had Al, I had Lee Ritenour sending me on stuff. I had Ray sending me on stuff, all kind of at the same time. And that's really how my session career started. Was I would get to a session and they say, "Oh yeah, well Ray told me to call you, or Lee told me to call you, or something like that." Because at the time Ray was focusing on radio, Lee was focusing on his solo records, and Al McKay was still focused on Earth, Wind, and Fire.
When I fired.
So they would send me on gigs, and Patrice would send me on gigs, and that's kind of how the whole ball got rolling for me as a session musician.
And I know having them in your back pocket, them suggesting you, bringing you to different sessions is all well and good. But there has to be a reason about you that made them refer you, that made those people who had your first session to call you back and do things. What is it about Paul Jackson Jr. and his playing that makes people come back?
Well, with them, I wouldn't stop bugging them. In fact, my mother used to tell me, "Will you leave Patrice alone?" Another good buddy of mine, Jerry Peters, who I met when I was 16. Jerry's the one that wrote "You Got Me Going in Circles" and
Hmm.
"Burning Bush" and "Blessed for the Emotions." And she's like, "Will you leave Jerry alone? Will you leave? Stop calling him. Stop calling him." And so I wouldn't leave him alone. That was part of it. But um, one of the things that happened was I could play decent rhythm guitar and I could read music well. And so I used to tell my students, if you can assimilate the style, if you can convincingly play the style, and you can read it. There's no music that you can't play. And so I'd really worked on my sight reading, and I studied classical guitar with a wonderful studio musician by the name of Greg Perret. He and I are still friends. And he and I, years later, ended up writing the music for the Martin sitcom show. So that's a backstory. But Greg was my classical teacher, so I was a really good reader. I could play chords, and then I had a lot of help from, like I said, people like Ray Parker Jr. and the great Wawa Watson, James Gadsden, Sonny Burke, who was Smokey Robinson's musical director. These are guys that all kind of took me under their wing and said, okay, Paul, I'm going to show you the ropes. I'm going to show you what to play, what not to play. In fact, I remember one session early on, I was doing the great Jay Graydon, who wrote After the Love Is Gone. Jay Graydon taught me how to tune my guitar. I remember Wawa Watson, I was doing a session, and Wawa said, okay, I'm going to play this, and you're going to play that. And I said, yes, sir. Didn't ask him why. Didn't ask him how come. I was like, I'm going to play this. You're going to play that. I said, okay. And so I learned because I took direction well, and they trusted me that I was going to come in and really try to take care of business. And so that's really, kind of how I got started. That's why people would call me, and praise God, it continued over the years.
How long you been doing this? And I guess the real question is not that I'm a workout freak, not that I just don't want to get in better shape, but dude, with everything you've done, every song you recorded, and we're not going to talk about all the hits because that would be enough to light the world. You are constantly busy. When does Paul Jackson take time off? When does he smell the roses? When does he go to Bora Bora or wherever?
Funny story. Okay, so as I mentioned before, I'm in a group with Jeff Lower and Everett Harp called Jazz Funk Soul.
Right.
So we went to Seattle and played Jazz Alley. Came back, went to Oakland and played Yoshi's Jazz Club. And so my wife's best friend's son was getting married in Cabo San Lucas. So we took 4 days and went to Mexico and had a good time. Came right back and then flew to do Jazz Alley. So the fact of the matter is that I really enjoy what I do. And in terms of my taking time off, most of my gigs, most of the things I do are during the weekends, like Thursday through Sunday, or Thursday through Saturday, Friday through Sunday. So a lot of times during the week, like for instance, I've been lazy the past couple of days, just been kind of sitting around, looking at car parts, fooling around with my dogs, playing with some equipment, things like that. So just been kind of what I call futzing, So I futz probably more than the average guy, but then, when it gets down to being serious, like I try to work out, exercise every day, try to study my Bible every day, try to practice every day, and so just to stay, like what was it the evangelist by the name of Sugar Free, under the auspices of the Reverend Dr. DJ Quick, said, "If you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready."
That's right.
So that's the thing, is you try to stay ready, and so that's it. But I enjoy my life. I have a great time. I have a great time being home. I have a great time. I have a great, I'm having a blast. So
Living the best life. All right,
yeah,
we're going to take a
I'm
quick break.
blessed.
I want to play something. This is from my days in radio. I found it's from one of those CDs back there. This is Make It Last Forever by Paul Jackson Jr. on the Jazz Flyte Podcast. That's from a few years ago. That is Make It Last Forever by Paul Jackson Jr. Paul, there's so much that you've done. You could fill a series of encyclopedias with the music that you've done, with the artists that you've worked with. And I talked to Marcus Miller, and I asked Marcus this question. It was different artists. With everybody that you've worked with, whether it's Quincy Jones, Michael Jackson, blah, 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 they're all different personalities.
Mm-hmm.
My question is, how do you handle the different personalities? That's the toughest thing to me, I think, because it's so and so is different from this person, Michael is different from this person, Quincy's different from this person. What What trait do you use to be consistent with all of them?
Two things. One of them is from what do you call it, customer service, and one of them is from kindergarten. Okay, so the one from customer service is the customer is always right. And I'll tell you a funny story when I get done. And the second one is you get your first report card in kindergarten, says, okay, plays well with others.
Mhm.
So those are the two. I remember, and this was a session in retrospect, Ray had sent me on. So I was working for the Holland brothers, Brian and Eddie Holland
Right.
from Holland Dozier Holland.
Right.
And so I'll never forget, we were recording at a studio called Kendon in Burbank. And so I show up and set my stuff up, and I'm tuned up and ready to go. And Brian Holland walks in and says, he's talking to other musicians who he knew well. I had never met because I was there because Ray had recommended me. Ray had done extensive work for these guys. So he starts doing this. He says, guitar player, guitar player, guitar player, give me some, well, give me some something. And he walked away. So I look at the music, I listen to the tempo, and I think, okay, what's on the radio now that's popular? And this was several years ago, so Nile Rodgers and Chic was on the radio.
Mm-hmm.
I said, oh, okay. So I put down my Les Paul, and I picked up my Fender Stratocaster, which is the type of guitar that Nile plays, and I started doing my best Nile Rodgers Chic imitation, and he loved it. So a lot of it is trial and error. A lot of it is listening to the musical and non-musical verbiage and communication that folks are saying to you, be it a songwriter or a producer or an artist or another musician. We were doing a session a couple weeks ago for a Japanese artist, and there was another great guitarist on it by the name of Tara Kokoni, who was the musical director for Josh Groban. And so we're playing a part, and I had played a part in the chorus, and I said, okay, I'm going to give you your part for the chorus. I said, because I'm playing here, you're playing here, let's fashion a part like this. And that was something that I had learned 40 years ago from Wawa Watson about how to play with another guitar player and how to make a chorus and how to make songs feel good. So a lot of it is listening, a lot of it is internalizing things, a lot of it is learning how to get along with people, and a lot of it is realizing that you are there to serve, not to be a prima donna, not to be an artist yourself, but to serve the people for whom you're working.
It's funny that you say this. So I I all the time have a list of questions. Do I follow that list of questions? Hardly ever. Um, so what I want to talk about is, and it was going to be one of the questions. You started this thing is, this is how I did it,
Yes.
and you're giving lessons. I don't play guitar. I got the manual dexterity of a duck. Okay, so I don't get it. So tell me about this is how I did it. What is this about?
Okay, well, This Is How I Did It is a series that I have created with a buddy of mine, a longtime friend of mine named Keith O'Derrick, who's a filmmaker. He's got 2 feature films on Prime Video, and he's got a video library that would rival any major studio. I mean, folks from the 70s, 80s, 90s. I mean, oh Lord, he's got everyone from Dionne Warwick to Biggie Smalls to anybody you can imagine. In fact, here's a good example. The movie King Richard, at the end, the footage of Venus and Serena playing in the park when they were children,
Hmm.
that's his footage.
Wow.
He got up early in the morning and went and saw Richard Williams and went out there with him. And as he's coaching the girls, my friend Keith took a camera out there in the middle of the park in Compton and started filming. So we started this series. This is how I did it. What happened was I would get various questions about certain songs, some more than others. Hey, Paul, how did you come up with the guitar part for such and such? And so we talked about it. I said, well, explain, this is how I did it. So the series is not just me sitting here playing, okay, this is what I played. I go into detail about what I played and why I played it, which is something I learned from teaching with Patrice. It's not enough to show people what you did. You want to explain why you did it. Hence what I learned from Wawa Watson and Ray Parker Jr. and people like Dean Parks and stuff. This is why I did it. Also, I include the sheet music. So if you want to know when I write out my parts, so if you want to read exactly what I did, this is exactly what I did. And I showed them the technical inflections to perform it. Then I also give them the instrumental track. So it's like, okay, now after you've learned what I did, you could try it on your own. And so it's an in-depth look into different guitar parts that I've performed over the years. And the first course is the Michael Jackson unit. So I've done PYT, um, Heartbreak Hotel, Just Another Part of Me, and what's the other one? Lord have mercy. PYT, Heartbreak Hotel, Just Another Part of Me, and Lord.
Bad, Thriller. All those are the
No,
albums.
no, let's see. No, Thriller was the album. Let's see, Just Another Part of Me, PYT, Another Part of Me, and Lord have mercy. It's coming. It's coming. No, that's PYT.
You'll be like me. It'll come to you at 3 o'clock in the morning.
It'll come to me at 3 o'clock in the morning. In fact, give me 1 second. Hang on a second. Give me 1 second. I can tell you. I don't want to do that. No, I don't want to do that. Okay, it'll come back to me. But anyway,
Okay.
Let's see. PYT, Just Another Part of Me. Oh, Dirty Diana. I'm sorry, Dirty Diana.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
And so I go into the background of the parts, the sounds, the whole shot. Okay, so and then I'm adding one song to that unit, which is Love Never Felt So Good, which is the duet that he had done posthumously with Justin Timberlake. I also played guitar on that. So that'll be the fifth song in that unit. And then I'm going to go into other units like the Hit Records unit, the Luis Miguel unit, different units of different artists with whom I've worked. Same thing, write out the music, all the sheet music, the demonstration. This is how I did it. This is why I did it. And then a track so you can practice it by yourself.
When did you start this?
We started this series about 4 months ago. It's pretty new, very, very new.
So, to stay on this path, how do people get to this? How do people get to this is how I did it?
They go to actually, the best way to do it is to go to my Instagram page and just click on the link from the Udemy website, and it'll take you right to my site, Paul Jackson Jr., This Is How I Did It. So you can click on my site on Instagram, and I believe also on Facebook, and you just click on the link, and it'll take you right there to Udemy, Udemy, right to my page, Paul Jackson Jr., This Is How I Did It, and sign up for the lesson. Sign up for the lessons.
You make me want to learn how to play guitar, but I know that these won't let me. All right, before
Well,
we
it's
go,
funny. Now it's funny. You have much better guitar player hands than I do. I describe myself as the brown version of the Pillsbury Doughboy. I've got these little stubby hands, and so you have much better guitar player hands than I do.
You were too funny. All right, let's listen to let's listen to a song. This is from I think your new album. It's BFAM Brothers from Another Mother. We're going to talk about the title here when we come back. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the Jazz Flyte Podcast with Paul Jackson Jr. Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching the Jazz Flyte Podcast with he's a composer, he's an artist, he's done a lot of things, and I think he also boxes. This is Paul Jackson Jr. Paul, I want to thank you for the time and agreeing to be on with us. The other thing is you're part of this new band, which I want to know how this trio got together. It's called Jazz Funk Soul. It's Everett Harp and it's Jeff Lorber. I guess he's the soul of the group, but I'm not going there. Stop it. So how did the three of you get together, first of all?
Well, it's kind of a bittersweet story. They were in existence before I joined with a great guitarist by the name of Chuck Loeb. And Chuck Loeb was in this band at the same time he was in Foreplay. And Foreplay, let's just say having a little bit better notoriety at the time.
Right.
Sometimes they would have two conflicting gigs.
Right.
So if they had conflicting gigs, Chuck would go with Foreplay and I would go with Jazz Funk Soul.
Okay.
And so we did that for a while. And then Chuck unfortunately became ill. Sometimes he felt like playing and sometimes he didn't. So if he didn't feel like playing, I would go out with the guys. When he passed away, they took a break. And after, a few months and some introspection and some prayer, they said, you know what? We think Chuck would want us to do this. So they asked me to join the band. And right now I've done 3 albums with them. So we did Life and Times. We did an album called Forecast. And the latest album is called Simpatico. And so I'm having a lot of fun playing with them. They're great guys and I learned a lot from them. And it's a great experience.
How do the amount of songs? I consider musicians geniuses because I'm sure if we just took the songs that you participated in and then added those to that drawer you have under your on the left hand side with all the songs you have in it that have not been released,
Hmm.
you've got to have. I'm gonna guess 500-600 songs.
Probably, unfortunately, not that many. Maybe
Hmm.
200, maybe 250. But
Okay.
unfortunately, probably not 600 yet. But there's still time.
I was gonna say there's still time.
Still
Where do you
time.
where do you come up with the music from? That's why 200 different songs that are there. You got another 500 out there that you've played on.
Hmm.
I just don't know how you creatively do that all the time.
Well, let's see. There's a scripture in the Bible that said your gift will make room for you and bring you before great men. Now, your gift is enough to expose you, but it's your skill and your practice and your dedication that'll keep you there. So, as I said before, I think I'm gifted to do certain things, but the fact of the matter is, I continue to work on them and continue to hone them, perfect them. It's funny because I'm actually a cleaner guitar player than I was 5 years ago. And you think, oh man, after all this time, yeah, because it's something that I still work at and something that I still try to get right. And if you realize also that there's always something to learn, it's like when I'm talking about mastering something, I never use the term master, especially when it comes to music, because it's something that you will never master. There's, excuse me, there's always something to learn. And so you keep your ears open, you keep your eyes open, you keep your spirit open to learn things, to experience things, new things, and to try new things. And so that's what I do on a daily basis.
So, right now, in the current state of the world, who are you listening to that you find interesting guitar player wise?
My problem is I'm still stuck in the 70s and the 60s.
So, who from the 70s?
Still George Benson, Pat Martino, um, obviously the Ray and Al McKay, Jimmy Nolan from the James Brown Band. That was almost the 60s. Who else? Big fan of the group Slave.
Hmm.
So still those guys, still listening to those guys, from the 80s. Actually, it was late 70s. Earl Klugh, still a big Earl Klugh fan. In fact, I downloaded some transcriptions of Earl Klugh songs, and one of the ones I'm working on, I need to work a little harder, but he did a version of Waltz for Debbie that's incredible, and
Yes.
so I'm working on that. So still those guys that gives me, and then non guitar players like John Coltrane and Charlie Parker and different things like that. Where you can always there's always something to learn. Piano players, like I said, I'm learning. Like one of the good things about working with Patrice Rushen and Herbie Hancock is harmonically they're never at a loss. So if you're playing with them and then they start to change the harmonic center or structure of the song, then you have to do what's called strolling and you just kind of wait. And so I figured out how to play a couple of things to make the song still feel good until they bring it back around harmonically where I could play more, you know. And so it's funny, this past weekend when we were in Indianapolis, Jeff Lorber started doing that a lot. And so I'm playing and he's taking it somewhere else. I said, okay, I'll just noodle for a second and he'll bring it back around or not. And he did, and so, so there's always something to learn and experience. So you keep your ears open.
So, you are actually learning in real time.
Yeah, oh, yeah,
I,
all the time.
so, are sessions different than live performances?
Yes. Okay. Sessions, you're usually dealing 95% of the time, you're dealing with original music. So it's about listening to what's there and creating what's not there to accentuate the song. So there's a song, and you're coming up with parts, you're coming up with different things that will accentuate uh, the vocal, the sax player, the keyboards, whatever there is there, and they're coming with something original, something that's never quote unquote been definitely is because it's a song that's unreleased. When you're playing live, generally it's about playing to the best of your ability something that's already been recorded for the most part. Also, in live performance, you only got one chance to get it right.
Has there ever been an occasion when, and I don't know how exactly to explain it, but let's say Jeff Lorber is doing one thing, you do something, he goes off on a tangent, you're waiting for him to come back, and if he doesn't come back, I'll say fast enough, do you have to further improvise, or do you then just go off on your own?
Oh no, you just wait. He might be on a roll, so he may be in the middle of the solo and he says, I need 8 more bars or 16 more bars to get my point across. You just wait. I'm not going anywhere. Crowd's not going anywhere. You just wait, especially if he's playing something really interesting, which he most of the time he does. So you just kind of wait.
So not only are you a great guitarist, you're also a very patient man.
I don't know. You should ask my wife. She might tell you a different story.
Okay. Paul, I greatly appreciate this time. This is every interview is different. Every interview is I learned something new. If I come up with 15 questions for every interview, I probably at the most get through 10, maybe 8.
We can
Um,
always do a part two. And I can tell you what it's like to play on the number one record in the world 30 years apart.
so what's that?
The first one was Michael Jackson's Thriller.
Right?
The second one was Random Access Memories by Daft Punk. It was the number one record in 105 countries at the same time, and I played on both of them about 30, 35 years apart. About 30 years apart.
So if I went back to that Wikipedia list and looked at those
Part
artists,
two.
yeah, I went back and looked at that list. Can you remember every part you played on most of those songs?
No. I have to relearn them. Like for instance, the song Michael Jackson's the Jacksons, This Place Hotel. The only thing I actually did was the solo, but I knew the other parts from working on the records and playing the songs live and things. So I thought. So I had to go back and isolate some things, and I found out there was the part played by the great David Williams, the part played by Mike Sembello, the third part played by Tito, which I had to isolate and replay, and then the guitar solo, which was done by myself. So you go back and you reanalyze things and relearn things, and that's part of the fun.
You call it fun. I call it confusion because I'm just confused. And once again, and I say this to a bunch of people, I'd love to be the fly on the wall in your studio when you're doing some of this stuff because I think that's where the genius shows up. That's where your ability thrives. Before I forget, what are you working on now? Let you like you don't have enough, but what are you working on now?
Well, actually, I'm working on a song for the saxophonist Jeff Koshua, working on some new music for myself, and preparing for some upcoming Jazz Funk Soul dates and some Paul Jackson Jr. dates. So that's what I'm doing right now. So practicing and working on some new music, and that's pretty much what I do all the time is practice, work on the music, and and then futz, like I said, around the house.
I will remember that line. So a bunch of fans out there probably want to follow you, want to know what you're doing. What's your social media presence?
Very, very easy. The website is pauljacksonjr.net. You can follow me on Instagram, Paul Jackson Jr., Facebook, Paul Jackson Jr., YouTube, Paul Jackson Jr. I'm really easy to find. Look for the brown skinned guy with the round face, and you'll find me. And that's how you find me. I'm not much of an X guy, but Twitter guy, but Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and the website, pauljacksonjr.net. And click on the link. This is how Paul Jackson Jr. This is how I did it on the Udemy platform.
We got to do that, Paul. It's been an absolute pleasure, and that comedy tour's got to be coming up in the next couple of
Oh,
years.
you're funny.
Yeah.
You are too funny.
No, I'm dead serious, man. I am dead serious. Actually, maybe when you do your solo shows, you do a little comedy and work your way into it.
That's possible. Like possibly.
Okay.
I'm just me.
That's all you can be. I greatly
Yeah.
appreciate it, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to the Jazz Flight Podcast. I'm Darrell Scott. He is Paul Jackson. It's been a learning experience. If you want to hear more, you can subscribe. Subscribe. We've had a bunch of quality people from Kirk Whalum to Marcus Miller to a whole bunch of people, and hopefully, this is a hint to Paul. Hopefully, we can get Jeff Lorber and Everett Hart.
I,
I'll see if he can help us out.
I think I
Yeah.
can. I know a couple of
You know
guys.
them?
Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, join us next week here on the Jazz Flight Podcast. Thank you for tuning in to the Jazz Flight Podcast. I hope you enjoy these stories and soulful melodies that groove through the doors of time. If you want to stay connected with the latest updates and episodes, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell. Until next time, I'm Darrell Scott.